Underwriting support for this program is provided by the Eureka Teachers Association, fighting for quality education in the greater Eureka area. Find out more at eta-cta.org.
The board is reconvened. And do we have any, we have a report out from closed session.
On item E3 and E4, there's no action to report. On item E5, we will be continuing the discussion in closed session after the open session.
I'm sorry, actually there'll be one more item to discuss on E3 in closed session as well.
I stand corrected. On E3, we will also continue to discuss after open session.
Is there any adjustments to the agenda? Information reports, student reports.
Hello, thank you for having us here this evening. My name is Jacob Mitchell. I'm Eureka FFA president this year. And this is our officer team of 2012-2013. Every year we have a chapter theme, and this year we chose our theme as Branch Out from Your Roots. We chose this theme because it relates to our home and the redwood trees around it. Having a strong foundation, our chapter wishes to branch out with and expand with new members joining, and we hope to achieve our goals this year.
Hi, I'm David, and I'm the Eureka Sentinel. And on August 7th, 8th, and 9th, the Humboldt Del Norte section had their annual summer retreat. We learned our officer parts, team building activities, leadership skills, as well as getting to know other officers within our section.
I'm Lauren Pedrati, the secretary, and on Friday we had the opportunity to attend 3 workshops put on by the California State Officers. The 3 workshops presented were social media, Cali Swag, which was we learned about agriculture, commodities, and learning to better yourself in your chapter through communication skills.
I'm Frankie Harding, I'm the historian. Our first FFA meeting was on September 19th. There was about 70 kids at our meeting. We did a mixer to get all of us to get to know each other better, and also talked about fair and officer retreat and other summer events that we had. We also elected our homecoming nominee, Shelby Beck.
My name's Kara. I'm this year's vice president, and this year we had 32 of our members participate in the Redwood Acres Fair and 28 participate in the Humboldt County Fair. Kelly Pedrati received Supreme Grand Champion Swine, Brianna Dethridge received Supreme Grand Champion Beef, Lauren Pedrati received Grand Champion Goat, and Jenny Mullen received Reserved Grand Champion Goat. Together, our members made a total of $67,544.50. We had a tremendous year, and we look forward to next year's fair. I'm also reporting for Lauren Graben, who is our ASB that couldn't make it tonight. Regional officers workshops were on September 29th. All chapter officers from Crescent City to Half Moon Bay attended the Chapter Officer Leadership Conference in Dixon. On this day, it was the regional officer workshops. There are 6 different workshops consisting from communication to fundraising. As a regional officer, it was my duty to put on a workshop, which was fundraising. They all learned how to work as a team with an adventurous activity. Later through the workshop, the chapter officers learned to create a marketing plan and how to usefully use it throughout the community. Also, how to present to school board members and booster clubs. In my workshop, I had over 115 students attend. I'd say it was pretty successful.
Hi, I'm Haley Vest, and I'm this year's reporter. The Welcome Back Barbecue was on September 5th at 6 o'clock at our Ag Department facility. There were 250 parents and students that attended, which all had the opportunity to meet our ag teachers, myself, and the rest of our officer team.
Hello, I'm Sierra Holt, this year's sectional representative. Yesterday, 30 freshmen and I went to Green Hand Conference, and we did workshops, and which the ag advisors put on, which consisted of learning about SAEs, agricultural commodities, and what else was there? There was commodities and CDE teams, right. The sectional officers put on lunch for them, and we made them tri-tip sandwiches, which were very yummy.
I'm Chandler Pitlock, and I'm this year's treasurer. On August 26th, we held our annual Green Hand initiation in our ag department. Overall, it went really good. We had about 65 new and old members, and they all had a good time playing games and mixers such as an egg toss, water balloon toss, and our always fun slip and slide. We look forward to welcoming new members into our chapter this year and hope that we have a good year.
Hi, my name is Walkera Scott, and I am this year's school board representative as well as school site. So October, our upcoming events for the FFA is October 8th through the 13th is the Eureka High School Homecoming Week, and our homecoming queen this year is Shelby Beck, and she will be escorted by our president, Jacob Mitchell. And on October 17th, we will be holding our fall barbecue at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria. Green Hand and Chapter Farmer degrees will be awarded to our chapter's new members. The Chapter Farmer awards are going to be awarded to our second or third year members. On October 21st through the 28th, I along with 10 other juniors and seniors, will be leaving to go to the Indianapolis, Indiana to attend the 85th Annual FFA National Convention, which will include workshops, keynote speakers, a band parade concert, and a rodeo. Thank you for your time.
Tomorrow we're having our first Tri-Tip fundraiser. This is a major fundraiser for our chapter, and this year we sold upwards of 700 sandwiches this time. So thank you to all who bought and support, and thank you for letting us be here and talk to you about our chapter's activities. We hope to see you in the future.
Are there any other student reports? Hearing none. Superintendent's report.
Well, I want to start off with just saying, wow. Had a fantastic time over in the auditorium this evening. What a fantastically bright group of students that we saw. Very proud to have our newly permanent and tenured employees to the district. Also very excited to have all of our new employees into the district. And the one thing that I just keep thinking is I can't wait to send that picture of all those perfect 600 kids to the paper and have that on the front page of the paper, I hope. And also very excited that Kelly May was here to cover a big chunk of that from KIM TV3. So very happy about that. And so I think we'll get some good coverage out of this, and it's well deserved by those students and the new and tenured and permanent employees of the district. So that was fantastic. Also want to talk a little bit about the walk to school today. All 4 of our elementary schools participated. I actually personally went to Washington and had the privilege of walking my daughter to school this morning. That was fun. Ran into Rex Bone and Mike Lyons there. They came out to support the walk to school, and also Officer Jenkins, our resource officer at Washington. I know the news was that Alice Burney, we've been keeping them busy today, and TV3 was over there as well, so happy to see them over there, and I think the paper was there and had lots of participation. I know at Washington, as we walked around the corner, it looked like a ghost town on campus because everybody was walking with us, and that was nice to see. The PBIS training recently happened with a community group and substitute teachers and some board members there. Excited to see you there. Got some great programs going on with that. And then also attended the California League of Women Voters proposition update. They kind of had a town hall meeting, I guess you would say, where they had a conversation there. Really enjoyed that. It was very informative. Learned about all the propositions, not just the two big ones with education this year, Prop 30 and 38, but the other ones as well. So that was very informative. Was there with Wendy. She was there, so had a good time enjoying that. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the counseling grant for just a second, and I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Lanning to talk about that.
Thank you. Last year, we applied for an elementary school counseling grant. It was a very competitive grant that nationwide only 60 were awarded, and the grant is to really look at targeting schools with particular demographics and helping in the areas, of course, increasing academics, addressing attendance, and obviously a mental health component. And I'm thrilled to say that this week we learned that we were successful in receiving this grant. It's a 3-year grant, and it will allow us to hire mental health school counselors at 3 of our elementary schools, 1 full-time at each site. And it's just wonderful to know that we have another opportunity to help support our students and our families and our staff to help with, obviously, student achievement. Thanks.
Thank you.
And do we have any board member reports?
I went to the PBIS training, and that was very, very interesting. I had been to one of the PBIS trainings that was for the teachers, and this was kind of a different. It was more of the history of the program and how it started, and it was very interesting. And I think that it's a wonderful program, and it's something that I'm really glad that we are funding and putting to our school system. I think it's one of the things that I got from it was, we have so many kids right now coming into school with just some of their basic needs not even being met, and they're coming to school, and then at least at school we can give them a place where they can learn the respect and the responsibility and the safety, and they can have a safe place, and hopefully take those things outside of school also. And I just think it's a really great program, and I'm glad we're doing that. And I went to the college night, picked up some literature for my son. We'll see how that goes. And of course he didn't come with me. And I think that's about it. I didn't make it to the proposition thing because it was all on that same night. But anyway, I think that's all I have to say.
I too attended the PBIS 101 class, and as usual, found it very, very interesting, and it was a different perspective because I visited a number of the sessions at Zane, and I think it's a great program. I hope that we will keep going with it. I think it's going to prove to be very, very good for our students and our teachers and everybody, parents too.
I had the pleasure of finishing the Masters in Governance program through CSBA. And with the support of the district, I found that the role of a board member is extremely different than any role I've ever been in. It's been a good journey, and there's a lot of learning involved in learning how to be a board member. And I appreciate everyone's patience with me so far. I also would like to report a conversation I had with a 17-year-old last night. And her comment had to do with the fact that our superintendent was in the shop at Eureka High School, wood shop. And she said the guys reported that the guy actually knew what he was doing, what he was talking about. And the teachers also like him being around. So that's a little feedback from a 17-year-old senior.
Thank you. Can I ask you one question, though?
Yeah.
What's involved in getting a Master's in Governance certificate?
It's a 2-year program that I worked at to get done sooner because I needed the skills. There are 9 modules going from the board's role in developing policy and curriculum and human resources and finance. There's 9 separate modules. They're around the state, and I was lucky enough to be able to attend most of them in the northern half of the state. As far south as I had to go was Visalia a couple times. And each one is a full day in length. They start at 8:30 and then you don't get done until 4.
Congratulations. That's quite a accomplishment for you. And Fran already has hers, so congratulations to her as well.
My certificate's bigger than yours.
Do you still have it?
I don't think I could follow that.
Okay, so we're moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. And this is the time designated on the agenda when members of the public may bring before the board matters that are not listed on the agenda. Legally, no action or significant discussion can take place about a matter not listed on the agenda. Therefore, board members and district staff members usually will not respond to public comments. The reason for this is the Brown Act. No significant discussion can take place on an issue that has not been properly noticed to the public. And as printed on the agenda, individual speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board. Each topic is limited to 20 minutes total, and we have a lighting system there on the podium, and when the yellow light comes on, that means you have 1 minute, and when the red light comes on, that means if you can please stop and let the next person speak. So, are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the consent calendar.
I move the approval of the consent calendar.
I would like to pull, I guess it is P21.
Okay.
Prior to that. And with that, if you'd accept that, I will second the motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So with this vote, you're approving the consent calendar, items P13 through P22, with the exception of P21, which we'll discuss in a minute. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. None opposed. Motion carries. P21. Approve attention to attendance services agreement with School Innovations and Advocacy, Inc.
Paul, your name's behind it, so could you go into a little more depth regarding that? Kind of explain it in general terms, please.
So the attention to attendance is a service provided by SINA, School Innovation and Advocacy. And what it really helps us do is focus on our attendance ratio with the stated intent of being able to improve that attendance ratio. It's a really critical thing for us. Attendance, ADA, is really the lifeblood that drives revenue limit, which is our main revenue source. Also some of our other things like lottery and the like. But revenue limit is the main thing. The average for the district over the last 4 years in terms of the attendance ratio has been about 93.25%. Throughout California, the standard or the target, if you will, is about 95%. So with the materials here, if you take a look, just increasing by 0.5% in attendance would bring us up over $100,000 in additional revenue. If we were able to increase from 93.25% to 95%, that would be over $300,000 worth of additional revenue. So to the extent that we're able to focus on increasing our attendance, making sure that the students are in school, there's certainly a fiscal aspect that goes along with it. Cost of the program is about $20,000. It is $20,000, in fact. About $5,000 would come back to us in the form of the operations that the folks at SINA do. They prepare letters, truancy letters and the like, some materials, supplies, postage, those kind of things, all add up to about $5,000. So if we were concentrating on this ourselves, that would be $5,000 out of our pocket. They'll end up doing that particular function for us. That's really just on the fiscal side of things. Programmatically, maybe I can defer to Dr. Lentz to talk about some of the advantages of the program there.
My questions had to do with is this something that we should be doing ourselves? And is there a review component? If we're investing $20,000 basically, or 15, to see if we can improve attendance. So I like assessment too, and I'd like to see at the end of the year, or not. I don't know if it'll be at the end of this year or next year, or if this is an annual thing. How do we monitor it to make sure that we're getting our money's worth?
And yes, there is a component there whereby we'll be able to see as we get to our P2 period for judging what our attendance ratio is,
how effective we've been. The downside is we're not getting a jump on things at the very start of the year, so we may not get full benefit in 2012-13, but at the very least we should be able to put the structure in place to be able to have some success this year, and hopefully be able to move that forward into 2013-14 as well. It is a 3-year contract, but we have an opt-out clause in each of the 3 years, so if we go forward this year and find out that it's not providing the results that we had expected, we have the ability to opt out at that time. And for a $15,000 investment, I think it's well worth that cost with the potential upside. You asked the question, is this something that we can be doing ourselves? Yes, but I think if you talk to the principals, this is probably one of the things that is not high on their radar screen, unfortunately, with the many other demands on their time. But as we continue to look at attendance and seeing that as one of the pillars that we need to build on and improve on, I think it's more than appropriate that we invest the money into this particular program.
And I just want to add one thing. We, part of the meaningful board report sheet that you get, I believe we have an enrollment and attendance update that comes right around the first interim report that will be coming out December. And then we'll have another one that comes out around second interim, which I believe is March timeframe is what's on the on that. And then of course you'll get the P2 enrollment update, which is P2 hits April. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll definitely bring those to you, and we'll have a comparison on there to budgeted and a comparison to last year as well.
Is this the first time that the district has used a service like this?
This particular service, in terms of tracking attendance, we do use SINA for other things like mandated cost reporting and that type of thing. So we're familiar with this particular company, this particular group. They do a good job. They're probably one of the top 3 similar providers in California, and we will look at them for potentially other services as well as we go forward.
So other than truancy letters, what else do they do for this program?
Try to address some of these things. It is a time saver primarily, and it adds greater tools for the principal and the secretary to monitor attendance, to make contact with parents of students who are not in school and when they should be in school. It's an efficiency tool. We do have, of course, the ability to monitor attendance with our current Power School system. This is, you might say, it's icing on the cake. It makes that whole process much smoother, much quicker, and the principals are able to, or will be able to, get evaluation reports, regular updates on attendance. It will also help reduce the dropout rate at the high school level. So we see this as an add-on to the systems that we already have that are going to improve the efficiency, save time, and recover lost ADA.
When I was looking into this, there's some language for opting out in years 2 and 3, and you were mentioning numbers. If we saw an increase in attendance by a certain percentage, what is our target for year 1 before we decide if we're opting out for year 2? Do we have a set, this is what we want to see?
We haven't really established a target yet, Wendy. I think that to see even a 0.5% uptick would be a good step in the right direction. Again, as I say, we won't get off the ground, or we're not getting off the ground at the start of the year, so that will put us a little bit behind the 8 ball. But I would think that that 0.5% would be a good number to start out with.
But they are charging us the same for this short year that they're charging us for the subsequent full years in 2 and 3.
I would also say, as far as attendance goes, too, we have some low-hanging fruit to pick because as a district, we're in the 93% range district-wide. And if I was to look around the state and look at an average for a district that's a K-12 district like we are, we should be somewhere in the 95% range.
Is the date that you're reporting back to the board as far as our attendance rates?
P2 comes sometime in April. I won't try to go into the formula, but sometime in April we'll get our P2 numbers, or excuse me, that's when the P2 cutoff is. So we will probably be reporting in May what that P2 number looks like for attendance.
But then there'll also be updates right around the first interim and also right around the second interim. So December usually, February usually, and then again in May.
Move for approval of P21.
It's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Item
Q23, classified management title change, CBO to Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Kind of feel like I've been here before with this particular situation. How many times does Paul want us to recognize him, I guess? Anyway, this is just to formalize, I think, the action that we all considerably support, and that is recognizing Paul Ziegler's additional duties as he's picked up quite a bit more this year. And so we are asking the board to officially approve the title change from Chief Business Official to Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, recognizing that it's not any increase in compensation, but I think it's a very valuable title change to recognize what he's providing for our district.
Could we make that contingent upon him becoming a Giants fan?
Yes, absolutely.
I agree.
So moved.
Second.
CEO sounds great.
I'll second it. Is there a discussion there?
You could take the Giants out, Mickey.
I don't think he was joking.
So I think we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, none opposed, motion carries. Q24, Resolution 12-13-006, elimination of classified management positions.
This has been a kind of a two-step process, and the initial step we've already brought to the board, and that was a new job description, student services coordinator. I can say that those positions have all been posted. And kind of a second part to that, and that really was looking at, again, assessing what the needs of our sites were and moving to a job that better fit those needs. The board is being asked to approve this resolution, which would eliminate the classified management positions as listed on this item.
Questions, discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 12-13-006 to eliminate classified management positions in the Eureka City Schools District.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 None opposed, motion carries.
Q25, classified management salary schedule revision.
Another kind of part two is with the change in Paul's title, in addition wanting to make sure and consolidate all our classified management positions, we brought forward a classified management schedule that does that. It's certainly more effective and efficient to have all the salaries on one page. I do want to note that you received a change in what you were provided initially in your packet, in that the supervisor of maintenance, it does not do operations. That is under the Director of Operations, Transportation, and Risk Management. So the recommendation, or I am requesting that the board approve this recommendation to revise the classified management salary schedule.
Just to be clear, just to be clear, there is no raises on there anywhere. All the numbers are exactly the same, with the exception of the addition of the Student Services Coordinator position.
That is correct. It's just taking, we had 5 different salary schedules and putting them all together, but there is no change in compensation.
Move for approval of Q25.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Okay, Q26. Resolution 12-13-007, supporting schools and local public safety protection act, better known as Proposition 30. And Our Children, Our Future, Local Schools and Early Education Investment Act, Proposition 38.
If you may recall, we talked about this package of resolutions about a month ago. It wasn't at the last board meeting, but it was a couple board meetings ago, and you requested that I bring these back at this board meeting, being strategic about where we're at with the election process and absentee ballots and people really starting to make up their mind right now exactly what they're going to vote for when it comes to the propositions. So what I did was, at your request, brought back 4 options for you to do. There's 3 different resolutions. So the first option is to do nothing and just stand neutral on both of the propositions. The second option is to adopt the resolution that supports Proposition 30, also known as the Governor's Ballot Initiative. The third option is to support Proposition 38, which is known as the Molly Munger Ballot Initiative, and the fourth option is to support both Propositions 30 and 38. And I want to take a second and talk about specifically what would happen if one of those 4 options happened across the state, if that's how the vote went. So if neither Proposition 30 or 38 passed from the voters in November, the district would be looking at somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million of lost revenue. It's already built into the state budget that the state legislators have adopted. It's about a $440-ish cut to the revenue limit. And when you equate that out, it comes into that $1.5 to $2 million range for this district. As you know, we're about a $35 million budget for the district. And if you start talking in the range that we're talking in the cuts, it would be a catastrophic cut for Eureka City Schools. One of the questions is, well, isn't that already built into the budget? And yes, it is built into the budget. And yes, we can make the multi-year projection work, but the problem is our deficit spending would be so high once we got past that year 2 of the multi-year projection, and year 2 is actually the 3rd year out, we would no longer be able to sustain that without making some devastating deep cuts. And those deep cuts, the only place we could really look to make those cuts would be to personnel, because we have about 85% of our general fund going to personnel. And we wouldn't be able to cut that kind of money out of the budget by just, taking the Kleenexes away and not bringing water to the board meetings and that kind of stuff. It just really wouldn't put a dent in that at all. So that's the first thing that could happen if neither of the propositions pass. The second thing that could happen is Proposition 30 could pass. That's the Governor's Ballot Initiative. If Proposition 30 passes, those mid-year cuts all of a sudden stop, and we get what's considered to be flat funding. You've probably heard the Howard Jarvis ad out there against Proposition 30, saying that there is no new funding to education. That is actually, for the most part, true. But what is not acknowledged in that is that there is a drastic cut that I talked about if Proposition 30 does not pass. So it's kind of an interesting double-edged sword there, where the negative is already built into the state budget. The governor's proposition is mainly funded by an increase in sales tax and also an increase in higher earners' income tax is primarily where that comes from. The one benefit that would be different the day after the proposition passed than the day before when it was enacted is that some of our deferrals would be paid down, so that would help our cash flow issue, which you've all been talked to death about cash flow, so it would help that to a certain extent. The third thing that could happen is only Proposition 38 could pass, and that's known as the Molly Munger Initiative. If Proposition 38 passes, what it means to the district is that the mid-year trigger cuts that were part of the governor's budget that was passed by the legislators would still take effect. So we'd still take the $1.5 to $2 million cut to our general fund, but what would happen is that cut would be backfilled by revenue coming in from this tax initiative, which is funded by a personal income tax hike that is more of a split scale that starts at low-income earners at a reduced amount, and then as you get up into the higher income, it has a sliding scale and it gets higher for the more that you earn. So it's really unclear to me right now. I couldn't say whether it would be more than that $1.5 to $2 million or less than that $1.5 to $2 million. I believe it would be a touch more, but I couldn't say that for certain. The funding would come in different pot, if you will, because most of that money is going to be targeted to go straight out to the school site. So it's a little bit unknown to me right now exactly how that would end up rolling out. So the third thing that could happen is both Proposition 30 and 38 could pass. If that happens, there's already been a battle about what would happen, and what the resolution of that battle is whichever of the propositions gets the higher vote, whether it be 30 or 38, would cancel out everything that happens in the ballot measure that gets the lower vote. So for instance, if 38 and 30 pass and 30 has a higher vote, it would be in essence the same thing as if just 30 passed. If 38 gets a higher vote, it would be the same thing as, in essence, just 38 passing. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. I jumped on CSBA's website this afternoon. They're recommending that the board pass a resolution for both of these. It was interesting, though. Only 114 school districts in the state of California, and there's my recollection, about 2,500 school districts in the state of California. About 114 have passed a resolution to support both. CTA, I know, has taken the position of support of Proposition 30 and neutral on Proposition 38. So with that background, I will throw the discussion over to you.
Okay. I strongly support Proposition 30 and 38. And so I got on the internet before I made up my mind to get some of the details. And when you talk about, on Proposition 30, when you talk about the raise in the sales tax, we're talking 1/4 of 1%, which means on a $100 purchase, your sales tax would increase by 25 cents. So we're not talking a lot here. And the difference between 30 and 38 is Prop 30, its income tax increase does not start until singles have income over 250, taxable income over 250,000, and then in that case it's a 1% increase. And and when your income goes over 300,000, it's a 2% increase, and so on. And I believe it's for 7 years. Whereas Proposition 38 has also has tax increases, but its tax increases start at 1% increase on taxable income starting around 17,000, and once your income hits 250,000, it's a 2% increase, and goes up a little bit from there. And I believe it is for 12 years or 13. So they're both good for schools.
I also did a lot of research on it. I'm going to be the most informed voter I've ever been, I think. I've looked at every site, and I strongly support Proposition 30, and I think it's pretty obvious why we need it. I mean, we're 47th in the state for spending, in the United States for spending on our students. We've lost 40,000 teachers in the last several years. We're 50th out of the 50 states in counselors and nurses. And so we desperately need some extra funding to education. I would say that I think that the reason that I think that Proposition 30 is the one that I would choose. First of all, the funding stream that you talked about, with Proposition 30, the increase in the sales tax is for 4 years. The increase in the income tax is for 7 years, and that is, like he said, $250,000 for a single person, $500,000 for a family, before you start paying any increase in your income tax. On the other side, on 38, I believe that it is too much of a hit on our low-income and middle-income families. It starts as low as $17,000 is when the first increase in income taxes hits. And I think that, in the last several years, when all of the lower-income and middle-income people have really been struggling, we have people in the state that have become extremely wealthy. And I think it's time that they start to pay a fair share to education. And the other thing about Proposition 30 is it also has some guarantees for public safety funding put into it. There's some things that the state has regulated to the counties to take care of. That includes probation, parolees, some incarceration issues that the counties are now being told that they are doing, that's going to be at their level and not at the state level. And this is going to say that they cannot stop funding that. So the counties are going to get money to actually run these programs that they're being mandated to run. The other issue that I had with the two was if they were both to pass, and 38, or if 38 passed, or they both pass and it's the bigger winner. It's if 38's funding is not going to start until the fiscal year of next year, so of July of next year. And so right after the election, when it passes, the trigger cuts are going to hit, and we're going to have nothing to cover that amount of time, and we're going to have this huge hit. The other thing that could happen is that even though the money from 38 is going to be put into a special funding, it doesn't mean that Sacramento can't then stop funding schools in a different way, and we could end up, even though we're getting that money, we could end up getting less money overall. So I really feel like I would like to propose that we support Proposition 30. I also would like to say that I know that the California teachers and our local teachers are supporting it, and I'd like to see us support the educators and support Proposition 30.
I have to disagree one thing about the impact, the difference on the poor from the two propositions. Where Prop 30, the income tax increases don't start until $250,000. It does have the sales tax that affects everybody, right, including the very poor, including the poor that don't even have taxable income. And so the impact on the poor is a lot closer than it would look like if you just looked at income tax brackets. And as far as this governor and the legislature changing their minds and cutting funds elsewhere, that could happen with both propositions. So where 30 may be a better proposition, but
I think with either one of them, the funding that the actual proposition has cannot be modified without voter approval. So it would have to be another ballot measure before they could modify the funding.
I think one of the important key issues is that if it sounds like a good thing, just support both propositions and you wind up with enough money to actually run schools. And I'm afraid it doesn't actually work that way, because you can't have competing initiatives. If they both pass, the initiative that has the most votes, right, if they both pass, will cancel out the other initiative. So if 38 and 30 both pass, but 38 receives a higher percentage of the votes, it will cancel out Prop 30, and the trigger cuts will take effect.
That's true.
But 38 would be better than nothing.
Well, I have done quite a bit of homework too, and have come up with the same arguments that Susan has. I personally would only like to support 30 and not 38 for basically the same reasons, and I have a sheet here that compares both of them together, and along with the things that she has said. So that's my feeling.
I'm upset by the fact the state refuses to cut what needs to be cut, and basically they've given the voters no choice. I support education, I support our children, and to see the state say we will cut $440 per child if you don't raise your taxes is an insult. At the same time, it leaves us absolutely no wiggle room as to pass, hopefully, one of these initiatives. I think it's confusing enough to the average voter that hasn't done any studying. To support both of them is to kind of flirt with disaster. So in saying that, I would support Proposition 30.
I move that we go on record as supporting what resolution, help me, 12-13-007, is that right? Yes. Which would support Schools and Local Public Safety Protection Act, Proposition 30.
I'll second.
So that resolution as worded also has Proposition 38 in there, so it's...
No, it doesn't. It has, this is the one I'm talking about.
I'm reading this one.
It only has 30. There are 3 of them, and I'm only doing 12-13-007.
Looking at 12-13-007 right here.
Just for clarification, 12-13-007 will be the resolution number no matter which resolution you adopt. So it's just a matter of whether you want to adopt the resolution, just to simplify, 30, 30 and 38, or just 38. So there's 3 different resolutions there, and if you want to just simplify it to Prop 30, and we can take care of it from there, certainly.
30.
I got it. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I seconded it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, no, none opposed, motion carries. Our discussion, the board has asked, but there's no items, okay. So we will be recessing back to closed session. Is there any public comment on closed session items? Yes?
Not on closed session. I was just wondering if I could approach the
Sure.
You know, I love to come up here and talk to you about PBIS or what's going on in the schools, and I always appreciate it. I wanted to thank you. Tonight, the presentation for the students, I've been in Eureka City Schools. My oldest is 23, and there's never been a presentation like this before. So I thank you very much for that. And I want to thank you because my youngest is now out of school, and my children are all prospering very well. My son just won a prestigious award from Intel, where he works. And he started at Lincoln School as a kindergartner and went all the way through Eureka City Schools. Good. So all of my children received a very fine education from Eureka City Schools. So I wanted to thank you for this new approach to welcoming new staff members to Eureka, tenured staff, and also the students that have worked so diligently on the tests. Because I know a lot of times kids can say, doesn't make any difference in our grades, so who cares how well we do on the tests. So I thank you for that. I do want to also say, though, that I think it was very poor that on the same night that our students and staff were recognized, that you also terminated positions that have been held by some people for the past 20 years. I'm actually a pretty new person to the position, and I'm 10 years. So it's really been like a knife to our hearts, the changes that have happened with this at this beginning time of the school year. And also for a very new person that just received the job right before school started to be told within, a month or so that she was terminated. So I just want you to reflect on that and think about that for future. Just that, especially the timing was very poor, as coordinators, after-school coordinators, spend a great deal of hours during the summer prepping their programs to begin school. And to pour that in and then to be told that we are being terminated right as school started was, I feel it was very demeaning to our positions. So I thank you for the celebration tonight, but again, I think it's a sad moment for us that on the same night we would terminate the positions of people that have been in the district for so long. Thank you.
For the minute.
Give your name, please.
We need to speak your name.
I'm sorry, Katrina Scheffler.
That's what I thought.
Lafayette School. Thank you.
Okay, so we are recessing to closed session.
Enjoy your guys' circle jerk.
So were you told you couldn't let your children play?
Yeah, gave me a ticket to boot. I don't know what. I've